Listeners, we are excited to have on the podcast with us today Mr. Mike Damigella, the superintendent from Erland Construction. And for those that are listening to the podcast, one of the things we love to do is have some of the recent award winners from the Excellence in Construction Awards. And Mike and his team over at Erland won an award for the project done over in Beverly. Let him talk about it. But I definitely want to talk about Erland, some of the great things that they have done in the past. They've been longstanding ABC Massachusetts members. And one of the greatest achievements is becoming an employee-owned company in 2022. This milestone has strengthened their culture and accountability and innovation, as each team member has a personal stake in the success of their projects and satisfaction of our clients. And as we approach their 50th anniversary, which is a long time in the construction world, just 2 years away, they look forward to celebrating 5 decades of building strong partnerships, delivering transferable projects, and shaping a brighter future together. Mike, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
And we briefly talked about it before we hit record here, but that project that you won the award for in Beverly is near and dear to my heart because I lived in Beverly for 20 years. And that project, not knowing, I think every time I drove by, I said, hey, Erland, I know those guys. And it's a beautiful project. So, Mike, for those that are listening and might not know who you are and what Erland does, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a bit about yourself.
My name is Mike Damigella, superintendent at Erland Construction. Been here for about, I think I'm going in my 8th year now. Went to Wentworth for civil engineering, started at Erland, have been here ever since. I've primarily mostly been on the large scale residential apartment buildings. But we do all sorts of different types of work, labs, schools, pretty diverse portfolio. But I kind of found my niche in these large scale apartment buildings, which were always quite the challenge. But when you get to see what you end up putting out in the end, that product is a really nice product, and it's people are living in it, they're enjoying it, swimming in the pools, cooking at the grills, and it's definitely a really good process to be a part of.
So I know that we want to just briefly talk about the award you guys won for the projects in Beverly. If you could tell us a little bit about the project and some of the things that made it such a success and an award winner.
Yes, the block at Odell Park was done for Beverly Crossing. It was 6 stories above grade of apartments. We had 4 commercial spaces in there that they were going to be leasing out, and there was 2 underground parking levels. It was definitely a challenging site just in terms of logistics. We were on a main street in Beverly. We were right next to the Beverly Depot train station, which I was told, I think that was like a top 5 busiest commuter rail station in the whole state. So a lot of pedestrian traffic, a lot of commuter traffic. Every Monday from Columbus Day or it was around Memorial Day to Columbus Day, they'd shut down one of our main access points to the site for a farmer's market in the park right across from Beverly Depot train station. So that was challenge. Happened to kind of these are concrete pours around that. So but that was a good way for help us get intertwined in the community. We would take a walk over, chat with the vendors, bought a lot of good things over there that I would take home. So it was definitely a nice little touch being right next to that. So this one had an old historic building that we were preserving on the site. We took down 3 buildings, and then this Casa de Luca building, which I believe was a hotel back in the early 1900s. Yep. And then a couple other things. Most formally, it was the Casa de Luca Italian restaurant, which I'd heard in town was a really good place. I'm sure you probably knew about it.
Yep.
So that building was a challenge in itself. We had to integrate it into the new builds. Like I said, it was over 100 years old. There had been some other renovations over time that were, kind of we had to tend to as well. So we almost had to, reverse engineer the building to re-engineer it. It was 3 stories. It was almost like it was the second and third floors were almost balloon framed down to the first floor that kind of sat in a beam around the outside. So we ended up having to shore up the whole building so we could do a bunch of structural enhancements. We had to pour a new foundation wall in the basement around the existing field stone. And then we had to drop some steel columns down on top of that to allow for the new aluminum storefront window spans. That was really interesting. I had never all the projects I had previously done were all ground up new builds. So this was the first time having to tend with a an old structure and having it integrate with the new structure. This building was also from the ground to the top of the roof was also 9 inches out of plumb. So we had to replumb the new wall that got integrated into our building. Um, yeah, really good project overall. The building had to step back on the upper two floors because of the clearances required for the zoning. So if you look at a photo of the building, you'll see the sixth and fifth floors jog in to get the required height ordinance off of the road. So that definitely the jogs in the building and the steps definitely makes it for some intricate building envelope details, which were a good challenge to work through. This was also post-COVID. We still had some lead time issues with switchgear, um, issues with trucking. A lot of people had retired, and there really wasn't that younger workforce that came in. So we were short on concrete truck drivers or dump trailer drivers trying to haul soil out. So those were all things that we had to account for.
So the listeners that might not know this, where the project was built in Beverly, is pretty congested, right outside of downtown. Like I said, it's on a main street there, very busy next to the train station, it must be incredibly hard. It is a beautiful building, and I remember driving by and saying, I Erland's a member, and I know that he took down quite a few structures and built quite a lot up about it. What was probably the biggest hurdle you think you had to get over? I mean, you listed a bunch, but what was the biggest one, do you think?
Biggest hurdle here, that cost of building was pretty tough. Just, having to go in there and demo it. We didn't really know what we were going to be dealing with structural wise. So we didn't really have the best structural drawings for it. It was kind of, open it up and let's see what we have to tend to. I mean, the building itself was, pretty typical for an apartment building. Usually all these buildings, all the apartment types stack. So everything, runs vertically. But where the building did jog in, we did have a couple stacks that offset that we had to just do a little extra coordination on. We weren't allowed to have access on the Rantoul Street side of the building, and the Rantoul Street side you'll see has a lot of brick and these big precast stones. So we had to actually we couldn't feed the staging typically how you would with a lull. We had to actually feed all the brick through the building and then bring it by hand through the building and feed the staging on the outside on that Rantoul elevation because we didn't have lull access. And then for all the large precast pieces that you see, the big tan stones, big tan cornice pieces, all those had to get set by a crane that was set on the other side of the building and kind of dropped into place because we didn't have access on that side of the building.
So when the project was finally done and complete and signed over, you must have had a breath of relief, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, tightest site logistic plan I've had to deal with in my career so far.
And when when you were, named as an award winner, that must have felt pretty good.
Yeah, definitely felt pretty good because this building had some different finishes on it that sometimes these large scale buildings they don't have crazy amount of high end finish, but the magnitude of them. So doing something with a good amount of brick and precast, and then taking that cost of building from what it was. I mean, you knew that was quite the eyesore on the corner, run
Yeah.
down. It that came out really well. I think it makes that whole corner pop now.
It's beautiful. So congratulations on the award. Now we'll flip real quick. I want to talk a little bit about, kind of your experience. Uh, Mike Damigella, little Mike, right? Being a kid, were you playing with Legos? Were you playing with, and what were you doing? What got you to get into being a civil engineer?
So my dad actually has a plumbing company, and when me and all my siblings, when we were younger, we wanted to go to work with dad and be on the construction sites. When we were younger, it was mostly because we knew we'd be, going out to lunch and stopping at Dunkin's in the morning. So, working on some really cool projects with them. There's a lot of like high end residential and like commercial. So, as you kind of get through middle school and high school, I took a liking to the industry. I thought I wanted to go more of the architecture route, but I wasn't as artsy. It was more of a math and science brain. So ended up going the civil engineering route. Went to Wentworth in Boston. did my required co-ops there. Did one co-op where I was doing a lot more drafting and design for a site civil engineer, and then my other co-op was I worked on the Longfellow Bridge, that rehabilitation project, which was a pretty big
Wow.
under yeah, cities Boston and Cambridge. Yeah,
Was your dad disappointed you didn't become a plumber?
yeah, he's not disappointed, but it was definitely learned a lot of good things. Took a lot of good things away from those experiences growing up.
Any of your siblings staying with dad in the plumbing business?
Now everyone's in the medical field, so I was the
Oh,
only one to go the construction route.
so in your construction world now, in your 8 year career, which you seem super young, being around for 8 years, but is there a certain type of project that you haven't worked on that you would love to be a part of?
Yeah, so like I said, since I've started Erland, I kind of found my niche in these multifamily, larger scale apartment buildings. It was kind of the first project I got put on, and then kind of, you know, found that I was a good fit on these buildings. So I don't have as much like commercial experience. Would like to work on some of those eventually, but yeah, for now, I think working with Erland and some of our younger guys coming into it to help them kind of set standards and really hone in on our procedures for these larger scale residential type buildings.
Nice. As far as any other project you worked on that you're pretty proud of, is there any other projects out there that you'd like to mention? Give a shout out to anybody?
Yeah, so I actually just finished one in Waltham. It's called the 305, and being from Waltham originally, that was a pretty cool project to be put on. I don't live there anymore, but I lived my whole you know my first 26 years of my 30 years
Yeah.
Waltham. So that was pretty cool. That was an 8-story, 314 unit building, that was an incredible project that we did. One of our bigger residential projects, and it was just cool doing something of that magnitude in my hometown. Because now you come full circle, you start seeing people in town, inspectors and people in the fire department and police department that you grew up with, or your friend's dad. So, and people come by and they're impressed with, this is, you're a super on this project, this is your company, that's awesome, that's really cool. I think it had ended up being one of the tallest buildings in Waltham too, so that was definitely one was proud to be a part of, just with the and
Yeah, that's amazing. For those that wonder out there too, how does someone become a civil engineer? Where does that start? Start in high school, middle school?
yeah.
Where do you find that?
So I think initially when I was working with my dad's and looking more through architectural plans, that really interested me at first. And then just kind of talking with my guidance counselor. And I'm lucky she talked me out of it after seeing what some of my architecture friends had to do in college. They were up all hours of the night doing these crazy drawings and hand-on models and projects. So that definitely wouldn't have been my route. I was in being in the math classes, and I'll take the math equations over doing the sketching and models any day. So that,
That's funny. But yeah, most people would say, no way, I'd rather not do math, right? And we're out there as a school, we're out there talking to a lot of the students. And when I go talk to most of the trade school people, I said, who here loves math? And no one says, I love math, right? No one
yeah,
ever says it. But no matter what trade you're in, whether it be even civil engineering, architecture, sheet metal, plumbing, carpentry, you have to know some type of math. And you can't be a tape measure, right? You can't be a carpenter. And if you can't add an eighth of an inch to a quarter inch, you can't be you can't figure out circumference. You can't be a sheet metal person. If you had some advice for someone, maybe it be someone in high school thinking about in the same boat as you back, be it going architecture or civil engineering, what would you tell them?
I'd say it's a great industry to be in. I like how you, especially in our position, you're dealing with trade partners and inspectors and designers. So you're really in an interesting, unique position where you have to deal with all different personalities and people from all these different entities throughout the day. Any given day, you could be dealing with the fire department and a building inspector, an engineer, an architect, the client, the developer that you're doing the job for, right down to, your trade partner foreman. So I like being out here in the fields as a superintendent and just, engaging with all those people, kind of bringing everyone together, getting the project done. And yeah, I would recommend this industry to anyone in high school, college that's looking to, you know, build things and change the built environment because, that project in Beverly, prime example, that was just a really rundown corner, a couple rundown abandoned buildings that we turned into a very usable, lively space for the community. So it's at the end of the job, and people are sitting in the courtyard using the grills and sitting on their
Yeah.
balcony. You
I
can say,
mean,
"Wow,
I mean,
this."
anybody wants to move to Beverly and move in that building, you're less than 100 yards from the railroad station. You step out your back door, you're at the train station. You don't have to even get in your car and drive to the train station. You can get off the train, walk across the road, and be, you know, downtown Beverly's 5 minute walk. It's all right there. So some of the great things that Erland is doing down there, and we appreciate you guys as members. Mike, if anybody want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do it?
My email is mdamigella@erland.com. You can search me on LinkedIn, Michael Damigella. I'll pop up. You'll see Wentworth, Erland. So feel free to connect and add me on that. Email me with any questions or any networking opportunities that anyone might have.
And we've had quite a few Wentworth grads on here from different programs. My son's a Wentworth student himself. He's a computer science major, so he's a senior this year. And we've had quite a few people from Wentworth on the podcast. So, all right, now comes my favorite part of the podcast is the lightning round. We insert some lightning sound effects. The first question we'll ask you is, who is your childhood actor or actress crush?
Ooh, childhood actress crush. Uh,
Tough one. We ask the hard hitting questions here on the podcast.
uh, I'll go with Margot Robbie.
Oh, that's not a bad one to be a crush on. Uh, if you had to sing karaoke, what song would you pick?
Um, Probably anything by Kenny Chesney.
Oh, all right, that's a good one. What was your least favorite food as a child, and do you still hate it or love it now?
Anyone that knows me, especially on my teams in Ireland, I'm known as almost a bit of a garbage disposal. I'll take anyone's extra lunch or anything. So there's not too many things I don't eat. Growing up, probably took me a little while to get into the vegetables, but pretty much eat everything now.
Oh, wow.
Pretty much don't say no to anything. If anyone wants to send me some homemade cooking out there too, you know where to find me.
All right. If you could add anyone to Mount Rushmore, who would it be and why? It's always a good one.
There's a good one.
This one delves deep into the psyche of the person because you could go anywhere. Anybody
I
you
don't.
want.
Mm, let's go Tom Brady, Boston sports legend.
Right, that's fine. That's a good one. Uh,
But
that's a perfect one. It's people say it a lot, but it's
mm,
probably if there was a sports Mount Rushmore, Tom Brady would definitely be on that one. What fictional family would you be a member of? Like a make-believe family, fictional family?
mm, Sopranos.
When you die, what do you want to be remembered for?
Probably just being a good friend, a hard worker. Um, Hopefully be remembered for all these really nice buildings that I'm fortunate to put up with Erland Construction.
Coffee or tea drinker?
Eh,
How do you take your coffee?
Just black.
Wow. Worst job you've ever had?
Um, not the I enjoyed it, but you had to deal with the crazy hockey parents. Was reffing hockey in middle school. It's my favorite sport, but you took a lot of crap from a lot of parents.
It's the same for being a coach, so I totally understand. Let's see here. Have you ever completed anything on your bucket list?
Ooh. Um, no, pretty fortunate to travel a lot. I've run a half marathon. Probably would like to run a full marathon someday. So,
And this one's a good one. Which band or artist, dead or alive, would play at your funeral?
ooh. Um, a big Kenny Chesney guys I mentioned earlier for the karaoke. That'd probably be
Good.
a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one. Any hidden talents no one knows about?
Um, hmm.
None? No hidden talents? Juggle? Can you whistle? Are you a good dancer? Any good hidden talents people want to know about?
I can walk on my hands for a few steps, so
That's pretty
that's
good. That's a crazy talent, man. Oh man. Wait till they hear about that back at the office. They're gonna make you want to do that back in the office. So that's right. And then we always like to ask this one: if there's a food fight at the Damigella house tonight, what is your weapon of choice? And you can't say mashed potatoes or spaghetti.
I'll probably just do a big chicken cutlet like a frisbee.
Oh, that's a wow, gee, that's a good one. And then we sometimes I ask this one: who are you firing who are you firing the chicken cutlet at first?
Uh, Probably right at my brother.
All right, that's a good sibling fight right there with the chicken cutlet. All right, that is our friend Mike Damigella, award-winning superintendent for Erland Construction. Congratulations again on the award, and everyone over Erland. Um, I want to give a shout out to Ken Tessitore, who's the my carpentry teacher over there at Erland, has been a teacher for us for many, many years, and I appreciate him and all the folks over at Erland for all the great work that they do. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you guys as well. Hope to talk to you soon.